Hello, this is Shamar, that word watcher. Welcome back. Today I want to tell you about choosing well and deciding daily. Our scriptural references are the Torah portion, Deuteronomy 7:12 through 11:25, Haftarah portion, Isaiah 49:14 through 51:3, and Brit Kadasha portion, Hebrews 11:8 through 13, and Romans 8:31 through 39. Let's start with some basic definitions because there is an important difference between a choice and a decision. And most people use the words interchangeably, but they're not exactly the same, so we'll share the distinction with you. A choice is selecting between alternatives. A decision is the commitment that follows the choice. The word decision comes from the Latin decidere, meaning to cut off. When you decide, you cut away every competing option. A choice says, I want this, while a decision says, I will continue in this. One is an entrance, the other is endurance. The Lord is still looking for people who will choose Him, but He is equally looking for people who will decide to remain with Him. Jesus said this Himself. He said, he who endures to the end will be saved. Matthew 24:13 is where that's recorded. Faith is not merely choosing Christ once. Faith is continually deciding to walk with Him. Now let's watch and see God's pattern in the Old Testament. The Torah portion repeatedly joins blessing to obedience. It says, if you listen, if you keep, if you observe, if you remember, if you love the Lord. Notice that Moses is not inviting Israel into a single emotional moment. He is inviting them into a lifetime of covenant faithfulness. The promises are extraordinary. God promises blessing, protection, fruitfulness, victory over enemies, provision, healing, and His presence. Yet every promise is connected to a continuing walk. God's covenant blessings flow toward people who keep choosing Him through daily decision. Isaiah presents the same truth, but from another perspective. So again, Isaiah 49:14 to 51:3 is what we're referencing here. And the nation of Israel cries out, the Lord has forgotten us. He's forgotten all about us. Yet the Lord responds with astonishing tenderness. Can a woman forget her nursing child? Yet I will not forget you. He remains faithful. His covenant has not changed. His commitment has not changed. And even after discipline, His desire is restoration. The invitation remains open. Choose me again. Walk with me again. Return. The writer of the New Testament reveals this same pattern. Hebrews says Abraham obeyed when he was called. He left everything, and that was his choice. But then he spent the rest of his life living in tents. That was his decision. His faith was not proven on the day that he left Ur. It was proven during the every ordinary day walk afterward. Faith kept walking. Now Paul reaches the climax in Romans 8. If God is for us, who can be against us? Nothing can separate us from the love of God. Notice that Paul's confidence is not encouraging complacency. It is working to produce perseverance. The believer who knows God's covenant love becomes steadfast because he knows the one who is called and who has called him is faithful. Now let's weigh in on this. What does this teach us? The Bible rarely celebrates impulsive faith. Instead, Scripture honors enduring faith. Many people make choices, but far fewer make decisions. People choose forgiveness, and then they decide whether or not they will forgive again tomorrow. People choose holiness, and then they decide whether or not holiness will govern Monday morning. People choose prayer, and then they decide whether or not prayer becomes a lifestyle. Every day presents fresh opportunities to reaffirm yesterday's choices. This is why Moses repeatedly says, love the Lord, keep His commandments, walk in His ways. The walk matters. Our choices reveal our desires. Our decisions reveal our character. One begins the journey, the other sustains it. Let's make a decision to walk this thing out. What does covenant faithfulness look like? Every morning asks one simple question. Will today's decision agree with yesterday's choice? Will I forgive? Will I obey? Will I trust? Will I worship? Will I remain faithful even when obedience costs something? Abraham answered yes. Israel was repeatedly called to answer yes. Paul answered yes. And now the question comes to us. Choosing Jesus is wonderful, but deciding every day that no alternative will replace him is discipleship. Obedience is not legalism. It is love expressed through faithfulness. And God's rewards are not wages earned. They are covenant blessings enjoyed by those who remain close to him. In other words, it's not tit for tat, that I'll do this if you do that. There's no quid pro quo with God. It's a loving relationship and not just mere religious activity. The Lord is still seeking men and women who choose to become committed to walking with him. Choices have to become conviction, and convictions become decisions, and decisions become a way of life. Today, perhaps the Lord is asking us two questions. First, whom will you choose? Second, what have you decided to cut away so that nothing competes with your walk with me? Choice begins the journey. Decision keeps us on the path. May our lives continually answer both questions with joyful obedience until we see him face to face. And until we meet again, friend, watch the thread and watch those words.